Boogity boogity! Does the glow of my eyes bring you fear? Hey, you just picked up Dark Knight. Leveled up to 100, got your glam together, picked out your favorite greatsword. You're not entirely sure how to play the job. Worry not, let me give you a simple guide to help you get through it. While maybe easy to John Madden press all your abilities, let's slow things down and go through your kit one by one to get a better understanding of what it has to offer. To start off, when it comes to single target and multi-target, for abilities that share resources or just general combat actions, the AoE versions require 3 or more targets to be efficient. Let's make your combos. Start off with our single target, Hard Slash, Siphon Strike, and Soul Eater. Siphon Strike generates MP when used as a combo, and when you're ending your combo with Soul Eater, you generate 20 blood as well as heal bit, what you'll be using as your filler, waiting for your other abilities to come off cooldown. On the AoE front, we have Unleashed and Stalwart Soul. Stalwart Soul, when used as a combo, generates MP. Anytime you need range, you have Unmend, and anytime you need a gap closer, you have Shadow Stride. Shadow Stride does 0 damage, so the only time you have to use the ability is when you need to. Our MP spenders are Edge of Shadow and Flood of Shadow. Both cost 3k MP. Edge of Shadow is your single target, and Flood of Shadows is a straight line AoE in front of you. Activating either abilities will generate the Dark Side buff, which increases your damage. Salted Earth is a field you put down. It does damage to enemies standing inside of it over time. While they're standing inside of it, activating Salt and Darkness will just deal extra damage. Carbon Spit and Abyssal Drain share the same cooldown. Carbon Spit is the single target version, generating a little bit of MP, whereas the Abyssal Drain generates a little bit of MP, is AoE, and for every enemy hit, you get healed a little bit in return. The Dark Knight specific gauge is their blood gauge. Finishing your combo or using actions under the blood weapon effect will generate blood for you, and the spend blood. For 50, you have Blood Spiller and Quietus. Blood Spiller is your single target version, where for AoE, you have Quietus. When using Delirium, you'll generate 2 buffs, the Blood Weapon buff and the Delirium buff. Blood Weapon, for the next 3 global attacks, you'll generate some MP and a little bit of blood. Whereas Delirium, you'll get 3 free usage of a blood gauge attack. Also, when activating Delirium, it changes your Blood Spillers and your Quietus. For Blood Spiller, you get a new combo of Scarlet Delirium, Comeuppance, and Torque Cleaver, where when you press Delirium and want an AoE, your Quietus becomes Impalement, usable 3 times. Shadowbringer is a straight line AoE just like Flood of Shadows, but it's its own resource, so you can use it anytime you need to, and you get 2 charges. You can use them as they come off a cooldown, or you can save both of them for burst windows. And last, we have Living Shadow and Disesteem. Living Shadow just summons a friend to fight alongside you. This does not have a resource cost, as well as you can use it outside of battle, so feel free to summon him and get those G-pose screenshots. Disesteem, after you summon Living Shadow, becomes accessible, where it's a global straight line AoE attack, where it's able to be used at a distance, which is its biggest benefit. That's Dark Knight's offense, but what's a tank without their defense? For role actions, which every tank shares, we have Rampart, a medium defense boost, Low Blow, a stun, Interject, a silence. Be of note, whenever you see a cast board flash, that means you can silence it. Reprisal in an AoE around you lowers the offense of enemies. Arm's Length prevents knockback, as well as any physical attack that hits you. The aggressor gets their attack rate slow, as well as their cast time slowed. And last, we have Provoke and Shirk. Provoke just generates you to the top of the aggro and gives you a little bit more, whereas Shirk gives the aggro you have and transfers a portion of it to an ally. Very useful for tank swaps. Now when we have Dark Knight specific defenses, we have Dark Mind for a boost in magic defense. Whenever you're taking damage, the number that's shown, if it has a little wand next to it, that means it's magic damage. Shadow Wall for a major defense boost, later on evolving to heal you when your HP drops below half. Dark Missionary not only increases the magic defense of yourself, also your party members. For the Dark Knight specific invulnerability, we have Living Dead. For 10 seconds, if you take lethal damage, you'll enter Walking Dead. For 10 seconds, you cannot be defeated, but once the effect expires, you will fall in battle. To prevent this, every global attack that hits an enemy, you get healed for a significant amount. And it's per enemy hit, so if you AoE a large mob, you'll be healed. If the amount you heal is equal to or exceeds your max HP, you'll enter Undead Rebirth, where for the remaining duration of Walking Dead, still cannot be defeated, but you do not gain additional healing. But you do not have to worry about when it expires, you being defeated yourself. Next up we have Ablation, just a small defense boost, but you have 2 charges and you can share with a friend. And last we have the Blackest Night, a shield you can place on yourself or an ally. It costs MP, and should the shield break, as in the damage exceeds the threshold of the shield, you'll gain a Dark Guard stack, where for the next Edge of Shadow or Flood of Shadow you use, it will not incur an additional MP cost. But should the shield not break, you will not obtain the buff, and your next Flood or Edge of Shadows will not be free. That's everything the kit has to offer. Generally, after you do your opener, you want to be using your abilities off of cooldown, unless very specific situations where the boss leaves, and you want to be making sure you time any abilities on their buffs if you can. While in dungeons, for starting off, when grabbing the first pack, if you use an Unleash and a Flood of Shadows, it should be able to generate enough aggro where you can run to the next one without any issues. Just make sure you do use Flood of Shadows at the start so you have that 10% damage buff, so you can start AoEing all the mobs at max power. Remember, it's better to use all your abilities on mob packs instead of holding them for the boss, as generally the mob packs are way more dangerous than the actual boss of dungeons themselves. For single target boss scenarios, for an opener, I can share you my personal one, and where it may not be optimal in terms of damage, it is very stylish. Plus, the damage difference between the optimal opener and the one I like to use is very negligible. Starting off with a Hard Slash, we can summon Living Shadow, then use Edge of Shadows for the buff. Siphon Strike, then Soul Eater. Here, we can either use another Flood of Shadows, or the Blackest Night if needed. Hard Slash again, Carve and Split Delirium, and we can set the combo with Scarlet Delirium, Salted Earth, Shadowbringer, Comeuppance, Salt and Darkness, Edge of Shadow, then Toy Cleaver with the second Shadowbringer as well as another Edge of Shadow. Here is where the style comes in. We can use our Blood Spiller and our Disesteem, both of which will be synced up with our Shadow Companion, after which we can finish our combo, Siphon Strike, Edge of Shadow, and then Soul Eater. Dark Knight is a pretty easy and simple job to get used to, and all you gotta remember is to keep your combos going and use your abilities off a cooldown. But I will leave you with these quick tips. 1, for dungeons and bosses, make sure you space out your defensive cooldowns, especially the ones for the higher cooldowns. You don't want to use everything at once and then be left open for the next pack mob or the next tank buster coming up. 2, make sure to keep your MP above 3k. That way you always have a Blackest Night ready to go. 3, during burst, if you ever need to walk away from a boss, you can use Disesteem to keep your global cooldown rolling, and you won't miss a beat. You won't have to worry about that unmen being in your burst window. 4, especially in dungeons, I'd recommend a macro for Living Dead telling your healer you're using it. That way they can stop healing you and you can get the benefits from using Living Dead. And 5, while in dungeons, to better line up your Flood of Shadows and Shadowbringer, as well as your Disesteem, target the furthest enemy. That way you won't have your attacks veer off to the left or right. It'll cleave right clean through the enemies. With that, we come to the ending portion of our guide. If you have any more questions, you can always leave them in the comments. Or if you want to catch me live and ask me questions directly, you can always hop into my stream. I stream on Twitch and YouTube under this username, as well as on Twitch, I am Cutman_extreme. You can find any link to my socials in the description. With that, thank you very much for coming by and watching the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next video.